Hello, researchers. Today, you will be completing the interesting facts page of your note taker. So I have that pulled up here, but before we start on that, I want you to think back to what questions you should be asking yourself whenever you are reading an article or doing some research. What are the questions that you should be thinking about as you read? If you need more time to think about that, pause the video. But otherwise, I'm going to pull these up for a review. So we always use these three questions to make sure you're being a patient and active reader. Do I understand what I just read? And if not, reread. Is this brand new information, or do I have a connection based on what I already know? And is this information important for my reading purpose? So keeping all of those in mind, today, we're going to talk about how researchers put information in their own words and give credit to sources they've used. So this question in particular, do I understand what I just read, will become really important because if you want to put something in your own words, you have to actually understand it, right? It's pretty easy to copy something down even if you don't understand what it's saying. But if you make sure you really understand, then you won't just be copying down, you'll be translating it into words that make sense to you. So we are going to be patient and active readers again as we look for interesting facts. And I wanted to point out three great resources to find interesting facts. Please use all of these and read through all the facts you find first before you commit to write anything down on your note taker. The note taker asks for 6 interesting facts. You have to have at least 6, but you could have more than that if you want. Just get an extra sheet of paper or go down in the space on the bottom. But with what I'm going to show you, you will have plenty more than 6 to choose from. Make sure you really read them all before you write them down, because the key is that it has to be something that's interesting for your audience to read and doesn't fit into another section. So if you had found something about a natural disaster, for instance, in your state, which section would that go in? You put that back in the climate paragraph or climate section. But you'll find a lot of other interesting facts that don't quite fit anywhere else. And when we read these facts, I want it to be something that'll make you say, wow. So let's look at all the options you have to choose from. So I will share this doc with you so that you can get a reminder of these 3 especially great resources. But let's go back over these. So Pebble Go next, if you go to the very bottom to check out fun facts. So I'm actually already in there and I already went to it, but you know how to get to your state in Pebble Go. And then in the fast facts section, you're going to scroll. You can read through all this. This is good information to review, although you probably already know this because you're becoming an expert on your state. Then you'll see fun facts. We'll come back to these momentarily. The second one I wanted to point out to you was 50 states. So again, you know how to get to your state. Oh, I should have mentioned. Of course, these didn't come from just anywhere. These came from State Project Websites 2021, a Google Doc that you know well at this point. We're never just Googling interesting facts for Illinois. No, you're starting at State Project Website 2021 and going from there. So as I just mentioned though, 50states.com is a really good one. That's number 6 on your list. So to save some time, I already clicked on it and I already went to Illinois. And then the trick to this one is you'll hit on your keyboard Control F, right, and that pops up here. And then if you type in fun facts and trivia, look, it's already popping up. This is a link I can click on. Slowly but surely, it's going to give me a whole other list of facts. Again, you're not going to use all of these, but you're going to read them all patiently, checking for understanding, and then decide which are going to be the ones that will really make your audience say, wow. Okay, last source would be Ducksters, number 7 on your list. So if you go to that, find your state, and scroll all the way to the bottom, it's going to have a list of fun facts as well. Okay. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to point out. We're not going to pick fun facts like the state flower is a violet, the state bird is a cardinal. Those don't make me say wow. Those may be details you want to include in a different aspect of the project. Later we'll talk about some options for your project presentation, and that might be something you put in then. But that's not a fact that's making me say wow. Every state has a state flower, so that isn't unique for your state. Okay, so don't use just those generic things. Scroll down and find really original things about your state. So again, I will share this doc with you so that you can remember those top 3 resources. With that said, if you find a different interesting fact in your state book or on a different website that stands out to you, by all means, feel free to use it. Just make sure that when you use something, you give the source credit, right? We want to say where our research came from. So if you use any on this list, be sure you circle them and then list any others. If you do end up using Ducksters, sorry, I forgot to put it on this list. So you'll have to write that down as another resource you used, ducksters.com. Okay? And that's called giving credit to our sources or citing our sources. And we'll eventually make a bibliography where we list out all the sources we used. If you haven't been circling your sources as you go along, you need to start doing that, and you need to go back in your old research and think, where did I get this from, and identify it. It's going to be, the more time passes, the harder it will be for you to remember. So you want to do that right away as you go. And lastly, let's practice. We'll read some interesting facts and practice what it sounds like to put them into our own words. So I wanted to pick facts from Pebble Go. But again, this would be after you've read through, you've picked out the ones that are really stand out to you, and then you're deciding how to write them on your note taker. So let's say I was on my Pebble Go facts, and I wanted to include this one. Illinois was the first state to ratify the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which abolished slavery. Well, my first question is, do I understand what I just read? And if not, reread. Another, if not, is look up some of the vocab. And what's awesome about Pebble Go is it actually lets you click on the word. So if I don't know what ratify means, I can click on it and it defines it for us. To give legal or official approval. Oh, so that means that Illinois approved the 13th Amendment. Oops, it took me back. I have to scroll down. And then maybe I don't know what abolish means. Abolish slavery. I could use context clues and think, well, we know the Constitution says that slavery is illegal, so maybe abolish means made it illegal at that time. Let's click and see. To do away with or completely put an end to. Okay, so now I understand what I just read, that Illinois was the first state to end slavery by passing the 13th Amendment. Oh, I kind of just did it for you. I put it into my own words, right? I'm not copying this down exactly. Saying Illinois was the first state to end slavery by passing the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Okay, this one actually, I find it a little tricky because this is pretty straightforward. So this might be one where you are copying a little bit more and maybe just changing some of the language, like Illinois was the first state to approve the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which put an end to slavery. Or you could leave abolished in there as long as you know what it means. And if you're matching it that closely, though, again, it's going to be very important that you circle the source you use. Make sure you're giving credit to Pebble Go, that that's where that came from. Okay, let's look at one that's going to be a little trickier to put into our own words, and I want to give you practice doing it. So number 4, I've decided I want to include this one. Benny Goodman and Gene Krupa coined the term jazz in Chicago in 1914. The word was used as slang before this time, but it did not refer to music. So do I understand what I just read? Jazz was first used in Illinois as a term. Interesting. Okay, so I'm starting to understand it. Now I want to try putting it into my own words, and I want you to practice this. So please pause the video and jot down on a sheet of paper how you would rephrase that to say it in your own words. A hint is, once you've read it a few times, cover it up and don't look at it as you go to write down your own words. Play back when you're ready to hear mine. So when I wanted to do this, I covered it up. I had read it a few times. I made sure I understood it. And then I stopped looking at it and I wrote down my take on it. The term jazz was first officially used in Chicago in 1914 by Benny Goodman and Gene Krupa. Before that, it was a slang term that didn't refer to music. So again, some similarities, I got the same fact, but I just switched stuff around to make sure it was in my own words. And it really helps you do that if you read it a few times, get the understanding, but then stop looking at it when you go to copy it down. Then I did afterwards, I went and I made sure that what I copied down wasn't exactly the same, but it was in my own words, but it also captured the same information. Now you have all the tools you need to complete your interesting facts research note taker, and I hope you enjoy learning some fun facts about your state. I certainly can't wait to hear them too.